Help! My mom is sick, a little girl's plea that changed a millionaire's life forever. Lily's fingers hovered above her phone screen, filled with dread and urgency. Her voice trembled in her heart, desperate to escape her lips. She thought of her mother, always tough, always smiling, even as exhaustion gripped her. Yet now, the diagnosis loomed like a dark cloud, casting shadows over their little home. Tears threatened to spill as she pressed post. "Help! My mom is sick," was her plea, accompanied by a photo of her mother laughing, heartwarming and blissfully unaware of what lay ahead. With shaky breaths, she hit send, praying for a miracle. The moments stretched, anticipation knotting in her stomach. Days turned into endless nights, sleep eluding her as the haunting silence filled their once cheerful living room. The sounds of laughter and ringing telephone calls from neighbors faded into whispers. They used to play baseball under the sun, but now the world felt heavy, and Lily felt it crawl under her skin like an itch she couldn't scratch. Her mother was fighting a battle she didn't know how to join, and the medical bills piled higher than ever. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The uncertainty gnawed at Lily. Each time the phone vibrated, her heart raced, a flicker of hope mixed with crushing fear. What if no one cared? What if no one helped? She pictured her mother's face, pale and tired, longing for the days when they'd race through summer wonderlands together. Despite the distance between her childlike optimism and a cruel reality, Lily clung to the fleeting hope that her post would summon a miracle. In another world, James sat in his penthouse. The city sprawled beneath him, yet he felt an emptiness consume him. The accolades lining his walls stood as silent witnesses to a life devoid of real meaning. He glanced at his phone and came across Lily's post. "Help! My mom is sick." It struck a chord, interrupting the humdrum rhythm of his existence. Curiosity ignited something raw within him, a desire to break free from the ivory tower he had built around himself. It wasn't just a Facebook update. It was a window into despair. He didn't hesitate, packed his briefcase, life stripped to essentials, leaving behind the sterile meetings and hollow successes. As he ventured into the world of Lily, every familiar comfort felt like an illusion, an echo of a life that became stagnant. The innocence in her voice resonated, illuminating the inherent contrast between their realities like a harsh spotlight. But navigating the medical labyrinth revealed tangled paths outreach to communities wounded by financial strain and stories of adversity that sat in stark juxtaposition to his privilege. Each encounter layered on guilt, igniting the fire for justice spurred by Lily's plight. Yet, as he wrestled with newfound responsibilities, ominous news unraveled his composed facade and rattled the foundations of his fortune. Time was running out. The weight of his choices began to suffocate his conscience, and he felt stranded at the convergence of ambition and empathy. When he looked into Lily's hopeful eyes, he felt a stark confrontation of his past. Her fears mirrored his own insecurities. Was it too late to change, to be the person she needed? As shadows danced around them, the stakes elevated. Decisions loomed like dark clouds over a fragile horizon. James could feel the anguish close in, tightening around them like a vice, propelling him towards a reckoning. In that moment, uncertainty surged, leaving a haunting question in their unspoken bond. Could he truly leap from the perch of wealth, or would he remain trapped in the gilded cage he'd built? The silence that ensued was heavy, charged with the unfathomable weight of choice, one that had the power to alter both their destinies forever. James stood at the threshold of a new reality, the weight of Lily's plea echoing profoundly. The shadows in the room wrapped around him, a stark reminder of the past he sought to escape. Could he break from the routine that had numbed his spirit? The clarity of purpose was like a sharp knife, cutting through the fog of complacency he had once cherished. He gripped the doorframe, torn between his safety net of wealth and the unpredictable landscape that awaited him on the other side. Time to act, he thought, shaking off the remnants of self-doubt. Each interaction with those experiencing hardship ignited a fire within him, igniting long-dormant aspirations of purpose. He no longer wanted to just be an observer of life, but to be an active participant in its narrative. With resolve in his heart, he decided to reach out to Lily's community, envisioning a fundraising campaign that would transcend traditional charity. This was not merely about money, it was about empathy, connection, and evolution. He began to formulate a plan, recognizing that to ignite change, he needed to connect authentically. He envisioned a digital platform that showcased stories, each personal account a thread in a larger tapestry of resilience. But executing this would require collaboration, and that meant stepping out of his comfort zone. Starting with Lily, James initiated a video call. Seeing her bright eyes lit up his resolve. She was so much more than a girl seeking help. She was a beacon of hope, reflecting a strength he desperately needed to emulate. Lily, he began, choosing his words carefully, what if we shared your story? We could create something meaningful that inspires others to give. Her brow furrowed, uncertainty evident. But what if they don't care? She asked, the vulnerability in her voice striking a chord. This was a moment of truth, one that demanded authenticity rather than just words. People do care, he countered, feeling his pulse quicken. They just need to see your story. Your mom's fight is incredible and can touch hearts. Together, we can build a bridge between your world and theirs. For the first time, she smiled, doubt giving way to tentative hope. This interaction ignited a sense of urgency in James. He felt the pulse of purpose surge through him, drowning out the financial forecasts and corporate meetings that had dominated his life for so long. Yet, as he moved forward, voices of skepticism swept in. He had matured in wealth, sitting atop a mountain of privilege that felt increasingly precarious. Discussions with his advisors became increasingly fretful. His potential entanglement in Lily's world troubled them. You're risking your reputation for a mere story, one warned. Their words pierced through his renewed confidence, mingling with his own swirling thoughts. Was he truly prepared to pivot from the cold calculations of business into the emotional tumult surrounding a little girl's plea? What if it all crumbled, just as swiftly as it had begun? As the tension gripped him, doubt flickered anew. He could feel the stakes rising. What lay ahead was a transformational journey, but with the prospect of failure looming like dark clouds on the horizon. In Lily, he found both a catalyst for change and a reflection of his unfulfilled potential. Standing at the precipice of this challenge, he sensed a turning point was approaching. The moment felt charged, alive with possibility, but also fraught with peril. Could he forge a path through the storm, or would he find himself swept away, back into the hollow halls of his former existence? With a deep breath, James made a decision. He would not succumb to fear. He would embrace the unpredictability of the journey. The time for action was now. Taking one last look in a mirror, he steeled himself for the confrontation ahead. The time had come to face the very limits of his ambition, as well as the depth of his newfound empathy. But what awaited him on this path of transformation? Would the world outside his fortress welcome him or reject him? Questions hung heavy in the air, growing ever louder as the deadline approached. In the days that followed, James plunged into a whirlwind of activity, fueled by a conviction that felt both exhilarating and suffocating. He spent late nights scribbling ideas, mapping out a strategy on his whiteboard that transformed into a chaotic mosaic of inspiration and anxiety. Each story he envisioned adding layers to the digital platform he had yet to create felt like ripples of promise, affecting not only Lily's future, but possibly his own. His routine shifted. Mornings that once began with board meetings now started with calls to local charities and outreach programs. Yet, with each conversation, the awareness of his privilege pressed down heavily on him. How could he, a man who thrived in the world of finance, truly understand the struggles of those living at the margins? Every answer he received reverberated with the stark reminder that his perceptions were shaped by a reality far removed from theirs. Then came the moment that challenged him most profoundly. A seasoned nonprofit director reached out after one of his inquiries, her voice both firm and compassionate. "James, what you're trying to do is noble, but I need to ask, what is your stake in this? Are you in it for your growth, or do you genuinely want to help?" Her question slammed into him like a freight train. The truth? He wanted both. He craved purpose, but ambition gnawed at him, whispering that personal branding and profit could emerge from altruism. "Do you see them as a means to an end?" She pressed on, her voice a steady anchor in the tumbling chaos of self-reflection. He hesitated, struggling with her inquiry. Did he risk commodifying their pain, wrapping it in glossy narratives for the sake of a fresh image? That moment of doubt illuminated something deep within him. The narratives he wished to share needed to come from their truth, not his ambitions. James decided to volunteer directly at a local shelter, believing firsthand experience could strip away layers of misunderstanding and judgment. As he cleaned up after community dinners and engaged with families seeking assistance, something shifted inside him. Each person he met was a story authentic and raw. Their resilience was unfathomable to him, illuminating paths he had never considered. Yet, the rawness of their struggles coiled inside him, fueling an internal conflict. He learned of systemic issues, the realities of medical debts, and the fragility of hope. Each new fact gnawed at his conscience, forcing him to confront the question of his own worth, what made him different. Nights turned restless, filled with thoughts spiraling into depression as he grappled with his role in this narrative. And what would happen when he returned to his corporate life? Amidst this turmoil, a realization punctured through the noise. If he wanted his project to resonate and be constructive, it had to be rooted deeply in the beliefs and experiences of those impacted. He couldn't be a mere mouthpiece. He needed to become a vessel, amplifying voices rather than projecting his own. With newfound clarity, James set out to structure his digital platform based on direct experiences. He called Lily and shared his vision with her, earnestly listening to her thoughts on how to present her story authentically. She responded with eagerness, weaving a narrative that felt delicate yet fierce. It was a pivotal moment that allowed him to shift from being an architect of stories to becoming a collaborator in a shared mission. As they concluded their call, uncertainty washed over him with a touch of exhilaration. The storm of self-doubt still lingered. Were his intentions genuine enough? Could he balance his growing ambition with an undeniable need for true connection? Thoughts about integrating the personal narratives of others began to crystallize, but would they be received as he envisioned? James felt the clock ticking. Progress needed urgency, but clarity demanded patience. Each heartbeat echoed the growing weight of expectation. What if their storytelling unraveled in unexpected ways? Perhaps it was time to confront. The most pressing question: were they ready to unveil their stories to the world? Each decision felt like a step into the unknown, a dance with vulnerability that scared and motivated him in equal measure. As voices echoed in his mind about the consequences of failure, he stood on the precipice of a decision. The crossroads loomed ahead, and the impending choice pressed upon him like a vice. Was he prepared to dive deeper into a narrative that could potentially redefine everything he knew about himself? With resolve building in his chest, James took a deep breath, knowing he was on the verge of something transformative. But would he have the strength to push through the fears and emerge not just a changed man, but a worthy advocate for those he sought to help? James awoke that morning wrapped in an uneasy fog. The previous night's resolve felt fragile, teetering on the edge of doubt and ambition. He brewed a strong cup of coffee, the rich aroma mingling with fear and anticipation. Today was pivotal. He was scheduled to meet Lily at the shelter where her story, one that had grown sharper in his mind since their last call, would start to take shape. He arrived at the shelter as the sun barely broke over the horizon, casting a pale glow on the weathered building. Stepping inside, he was met with a cacophony of voices: laughter, sadness, encouragement. Families gathered around tables, sharing breakfast, building moments of barely contained joy and freedom. Yet, beneath the surface, an undercurrent of struggle was palpable. As he scanned the room, a small girl caught his eye, her innocent face clouded with worry. She stood clutching a worn stuffed animal, her eyes darting around the room as if searching for something or someone. James felt a pull. Was she waiting for a parent? Or perhaps a miracle? His heart squeezed, an instinct rising within him to help her. Encouraged by an unexpected surge of empathy, he approached. "Hey there, what is your name?" "Emma," she replied, her voice barely a whisper. Emma. James. "Can you tell me what's bothering you?" The girl hesitated, her brow furrowing as if weighing the risk of sharing her burden. "My mom is sick. She says she want to get better," and her voice cracked, the weight of her words pressing down on both of them. James knelt to her level, the gravity of her situation igniting emotions he had been grappling with for weeks. "I'm really sorry to hear that. Is there something special you want to do for her?" Emma's gaze fell, her fingers twisting the edge of her shirt. "I want to make her smile again." An unexpected wave of clarity washed over James. Here was urgency, vulnerability, and an opportunity to create change not just for this little girl, but for countless others like her. Emma's plea echoed in his mind, a stark contrast to his corporate world, where profits often eclipsed purpose. This moment forced him further down the path of introspection. Could his project serve as a catalyst for stories like Emma's? Could he give voice to pain that, until now, felt sidelined in his plans? He left the shelter, a fire igniting within him. Revisions were needed. Rather than an abstract collection of narratives, his platform could center around individual experiences that resonated deeply, cultivating hope, revealing struggles, and sharing triumphs. That afternoon, he hunched over his whiteboard, a timeline unfurled, filled with colors and arrows. As he began mapping connections between the stories he now realized he wanted to amplify. He envisioned actual faces and real families, each tale intertwining to create a tapestry of resilience. It was a mission birthed from understanding rather than ambition, rooted in the visceral emotions he had begun to confront. As he immersed himself in the work, dark thoughts occasionally infiltrated. Was he capable of handling the emotional weight of these stories? Would revealing such raw struggles ultimately prove enervating? With fingers hovering over his keyboard, he struggled against the suffocating shadows of self-doubt, threatening to pull him back into inaction. Yet, with every narrative he embraced, he also uncovered latent strengths within himself. The thought of transforming vulnerability into advocacy encouraged him. It tapped into a resourceful side he never fully recognized. He was not just an observer anymore. He was an advocate. The day faded into night, the screen illuminating his dedicated visage. As he wrapped up, a single thought resurfaced with an ominous clarity. Could he also confront the systemic issues surrounding stories like Emma's? The next step felt daunting. He needed to connect directly with those who operated within the spheres of healthcare and social services, the very infrastructures that often failed families. A determination solidified in his chest, but also uncertainty about how to approach these entities. The next phase was clear. He had to reach out to stakeholders and confront the complexities of advocacy. James exhaled slowly, ready to take the plunge. The question loomed, though, casting a shadow over his resolve. Was he prepared to face the resistance he might encounter when attempting to change a system built on limitations? Filled with anticipation and dread, James felt the intensity of this moment carrying him forward. He was at a precipice, with a weight of both hope and fear pushing against his chest. The real journey was about to begin. But what if that journey led him to uncharted territories where failure loomed as large as success? James awoke the following morning, his mind racing with the weight of Emma's words. "I want to make her smile again." The simplicity of the phrase echoed in his thoughts, sharpening his focus. Today was not just another day. It was an opportunity for transformation, not just for Emma, but for himself. He took notes frantically, his pen moving across the page as he jotted down names and contacts of people who operated within social services and the healthcare sector. With each stroke, he felt the familiar knot in his stomach rise again, jostling his ambition against a wall of fear. Who was he to confront these titans? A mere storyteller? Yet, the fire ignited by Emma's innocence beckoned him onward. His phone buzzed, persistently messages from colleagues and inquiries about upcoming meetings filled the screen. They were reminders of the life he had built, a comfortable cocoon that now felt suffocating. Ignoring the chirps momentarily, he focused instead on the resistance he anticipated from the structures he'd need to navigate. Driven by a newfound clarity, James finally made the first call, his heart racing as the phone rang. The prospect of speaking with a healthcare professional didn't fill him with trepidation, but with a strange exhilaration, as though each interaction could serve as a microcosm of the advocacy he envisioned. "Hello, this is Dr. Mitchell's office," came a bright voice. James. "I'm reaching out regarding community stories and healthcare perspectives. I'd like to discuss the intersections between patient care and family well-being. Is Dr. Mitchell available?" His request felt shaky yet necessary. The voice on the other end agreed to pass his information along, serving as a small win. Yet, as he hung up, doubt nipped at his heels. One successful call felt minuscule against the tidal wave of systemic challenges laid before him. Would one conversation lead to the meaningful change he sought, or was he destined for a series of dead ends? The next few days unfolded like a roller coaster. Each call connected him to other social workers, hospital administrators, nonprofit advocates. Their willingness to share insights was illuminating, contrasting vividly with his former corporate life, where information often felt like guarded gold. Hearing firsthand accounts of struggles within the healthcare system tugged at him. It fueled his determination, but also revealed complexities he had never considered. Over time, James found himself constructing a web of stories and truths. His whiteboard was now filled not only with timelines, but also with colored sticky notes that represented individual narratives waiting to be told. He felt like an architect, designing a framework for empathy and understanding. Yet with each connection came fresh waves of uncertainty. Would these stakeholders view him as an interloper? Would he be brushed aside as an outsider rather than embraced as a partner in the essential work? The fear swelled within him. Perhaps he had overstepped, becoming entangled in a world he didn't truly belong to. His focus sharpened, however, recognizing that the very act of challenging these doubts was part of his evolution. The narrative he was building was rooted in humanity, and in that shared sense of purpose, he found courage. As obstacles began to rise, scheduling conflicts, cynicism from some professionals, James fought through the barriers. He drafted proposals and forged directions for collecting stories that illuminated real experiences, all while telling himself, this was not merely an exercise, it was a path toward addressing profound issues. Later, he sat on his porch, bathed in the orange glow of the setting sun, reflecting on milestones he had achieved, conversations that challenged him, personal growth he didn't realize he needed. Yet as he reveled momentarily, a haunting thought crept in: had he truly prepared himself for the emotional toll of fully engaging with these stories? What toll would confronting the systemic failures inflict on his spirit? His phone buzzed again, this time with an email. Titled Meeting Request, Healthcare and Community Integration. An opportunity loomed large on his screen, an invitation to an event that could put him face-to-face with influential figures. As he stared at it, doubt flared, tangled with determination. Could he step into the arena and make himself vulnerable among giants? The response didn't come easy. But there was urgency. He knew the time to choose was now. He could retreat to comfort or dive deeper into uncharted territories, where pain and inspiration intertwined. James took a deep breath, ready to hit reply. But as he did, a question loomed heavy in his mind. What if he was not just changing his narrative, but risking everything in pursuit of a truth that could unravel him entirely? James felt the weight of the decision pressing against his chest, each heartbeat a reminder of both the stakes and the possibilities that lay ahead. Hesitant fingers hovered over the keyboard as he deliberated. What did he want from this meeting? Was it a desire to be an advocate, a change-maker, or merely a storyteller seeking validation? The invitation had promised influential figures, perhaps even the change he sensed was necessary within the system. But were these individuals really committed to change, or merely eloquent puppets of bureaucracy? He couldn't shake the nagging doubt. Did he belong among them? As the seconds turned into minutes, he found himself peering at the screen as if the glowing letters could provide clarity. What is the worst that could happen? He asked himself. He had faced uncertainty before, yet this was different. This was not a corporate meeting with defined outcomes. It was murky waters, and he was about to plunge in. With a sudden rush of resolve, James clicked reply and typed a simple message. Thank you for the invitation. I'd be grateful for the opportunity to discuss how collective narratives can shape healthcare reform. As he hit send, a mix of relief and trepidation washed over him. In the days leading up to the meeting, James prepared meticulously. He immersed himself in literature about community health, systemic inequalities, and personal testimonies. Each book and article served as a lens through which he could view the human experience layered within cold statistics. He took notes vigorously, hoping to arm himself with knowledge that could grant him authenticity. But with every passing moment, the anxiety metastasized. How would he present himself? As merely an outsider, a mere storyteller, or as an advocate deserving of their attention? In one of his moments of introspection, James recalled Emma's laughter. It became a guiding light in the fog of his self-doubt. He wouldn't let fear divert him from that purpose. On the day of the meeting, he donned a blazer, his version of armor, and practiced in the mirror, rehearsing his points and trying to infuse his voice with confidence. The drive to the venue felt surreal as he navigated the streets, the hum of anticipation thrumming beneath the surface. His mind wrestled with a surge of excitement and the weight of potential failure. When he stepped into the opulent conference room, the walls decorated with art and the long table gleaming under the fluorescent lights, he momentarily felt like a small fish in a vast ocean. Faces turned in his direction, curiosity painted on their expressions as he took a seat among professionals steeped in credibility. James began to speak, his voice faltering at first but gaining momentum as the minutes unfolded. He shared stories from his conversations, allowing the narratives of those he had learned from to breathe life into abstract concepts. A shift began. He could perceive the tension in the room transform into engrossed attention. Yet, a voice interrupted his flow, cutting through the emotional buildup like glass shattering. But what do you truly know about our struggles? You paint a beautiful picture, but can we trust a novice? It was a woman with steel blue eyes, her skepticism palpable. The weight of her challenge struck him deeply. James felt the red flush of embarrassment creep up his neck, but beneath it lay a flicker of defiance. The challenge was fair, and yet he had not just come to paint. He had set out to confront systemic failures, to shed light on overlooked truths. Without losing his composure, he replied, I don't claim to know your experiences completely, but I aim to amplify voices that may go unheard. I come with humility and a desire for partnership, not presumption. The room pulsed with a new energy. Some nods of agreement began to emerge. However, the blue-eyed woman's stare remained unwavering, her challenge echoing in his mind. Was this truly a conversation about partnership, or merely an interrogation? As the meeting progressed, more questions arose, each one demanding clarity, and revealing a deeper layer of the tensions within the system. By the end, James felt both exhilarated and exhausted. The day had broadened his vision while grounding his aspirations. He had made strides, but also recognized the chasms he still needed to bridge. He wasn't merely an advocate for others. He was a student of the very challenges he sought to influence. Each engagement would demand more of him, not less. When he returned home, the shadows of doubt lingered, but a flicker of excitement intertwined with them. With each new opportunity, he was beginning to understand his fashioning role in this narrative. But would he have the stamina to confront deeper complexities? Just as he began processing the day's events, his phone pinged again. This time it was a message from a familiar name, Emma's mother. "Could we meet to discuss Emma's care options? I feel lost." The request sent a shiver down his spine. After the day's revelations, the stakes had never been clearer. Would he be prepared to support Emma and her family? Would this be the moment he could truly make a difference? James stared at the screen, his heartbeat quickening as he read the message over and over. "I feel lost," the words echoed like a whisper of desperation, pulling him from the euphoria of the meeting into an immediate reality. He didn't possess the answer she sought, yet instinctively he knew he had to meet with Emma's mother. This was not just another conversation. It extended far beyond his professional pursuits. It touched the very core of who he was, becoming an advocate for those whose disquiet he had begun to understand. As he prepared for the call, James felt a heavy weight pressing down again. What credibility did he have? He wasn't a healthcare professional. He had only recently begun navigating these murky waters himself. The thought of confronting Emma's situation sent ripples of anxiety through him. He wondered if he was ready to step into the shoes of someone who could make a genuine impact, or if he would fumble under pressure. "Do I even know how to help?" he thought, grappling with the self-imposed pressure. He decided he must approach the meeting with humility. Above all, he must listen. That evening, he pulled fundamentals of empathetic communication from his notes, reminding himself that sometimes the simplest act, just being present, could yield a world of comfort. As James practiced phrases, visualizing the conversation in his mind, he noticed a shift in his thought process. This wasn't merely about advocacy or intellectual narratives. This was about emotional support, about real human struggle, about providing a safe space where Emma's mother could lay down her burdens, however temporarily. When they met, the small cafe where the meeting took place felt welcoming yet intimate. The aroma of coffee seeped into the air, providing a thin veil of normalcy against the backdrop of a painful topic. As they sat down, he observed the tear-streaked cheeks on Emma's mother, and the first words trembled on her lips with palpable intensity. "James, thank you for coming," she murmured, clutching a small folder filled with documents. "I don't know what to do anymore. Emma is getting sicker, and the doctors don't have answers." James nodded, leaning forward to show that he was not just physically present. "Tell me what you've experienced. I'm here to listen." As she began to recount Emma's situation, the struggle she faced with insurance delays, and the mounting pressure she felt, James found his previous fears dissipating. He was no longer concerned about what he didn't know. Instead, he was focused on understanding her plight. With each shared experience, James felt an empowerment arise alongside the weight of her despair. It was clear that Emma's mother needed more than solutions. She needed someone to witness her struggle and reaffirm her resilience. During a moment of silence, he found himself gently squeezing her hand. In that gesture, he felt the walls of formalities crumbling. He was no longer a mere advocate, but a partner in her journey. As their discussion deepened, James resolved that he would not only help Emma's family navigate the complexities of healthcare, but he would also channel their stories into broader systemic change. He knew he had to balance his compassion with a strategic mindset, connecting Emma's individual struggles with the larger narrative he sought to influence. But just as he felt a surge of determination and purpose, Emma's mother wiped her tears and uttered a statement that sent chills down his spine. "I know you want to help, but if you can't fix this, can you at least bring attention to families like ours? Can you promise that you won't forget?" For the first time, the enormity of the responsibility flooded him anew. The burden was more than just helping one family. It had escalated to potentially representing the voices of countless others who felt similarly lost. James took a deep breath, weighing his next words carefully. I can't promise that I will fix everything, but I will shine a light on this issue. Your voices will be heard. Leaving the cafe, the gravity of her request hung heavily around him. Would he be able to live up to the expectations he had ignited? Was this the moment he had sought a pivotal role that could drive real change? As he drove home, thoughts swirling in his mind, he couldn't shake the feeling that the true test of his intentions was only just beginning. The urgency of his next steps was unmistakable, and either he would rise to meet the challenge head-on or falter under its weight. With these reflections racing through his mind, he received another unexpected ping, an email requesting a follow-up meeting with the esteemed panelists he had encountered earlier. What more could they want from me? He wondered, an unsettling mix of curiosity and apprehension gnawing at his resolve. Could he pivot this energy towards something larger, perhaps even formidable? The moment of truth was fast approaching, and James couldn't help but wonder if he was ready for what lay ahead. The following morning was soaked in an unsettling blend of anticipation and dread. James awoke with a firm resolve to prepare for the impending meeting. He clicked on his laptop, reviewing the email from the panelists once more. Your insight is needed to discuss future initiatives regarding patient advocacy. The weight of that responsibility felt heavy on his shoulders, and he questioned whether he was truly prepared to engage at such a level. The call with Emma's mother had ignited a flame within him, yet the fear of stepping into this new role loomed like a shadow. What could I possibly contribute? He thought. Each word of the invitation mirrored his anxiety, the underlying implication revealing a deep-seated desire to impact lives constructively. He spent the morning meticulously crafting an outline for the meeting, channeling Emma's family's ordeal into tangible points that would resonate beyond mere statistics. The drive to amplify their voices, to not only represent their narrative but to compel action, fueled his resolve. But even as he plotted his course, the nagging voice of self-doubt echoed in his mind. How can I stand before seasoned panelists with years of expertise? James questioned, feeling the walls of his self-confidence closing in around him. His hands trembled slightly as he adjusted his tie in the bathroom mirror. The reflection, looking back, appeared almost foreign. Focus on what you can offer, not what you lack, he reminded himself. Shifting his mentality from fearing inadequacy to recognizing his experience and empathy as valuable assets marked his first crucial step on the path to personal growth. As he arrived at the venue, the aura of authority enveloped him. The panelists talked energetically among themselves, the room buzzing with intellectual discourse. As he took his seat, the mixture of excitement and anxiety danced in his stomach. Here, under the scrutiny of experts, he realized the importance of Emma's family was more than an anecdote. It was a clarion call for change. The discussion commenced, and James found himself listening. The panelists spoke eloquently about systemic issues and policy discrepancies, but a gap remained, an unspoken need for a human touch behind the technicalities. James felt compelled to contribute. When a moment came for audience participation, he cleared his throat. I have a story that may highlight the urgency of the issues we're discussing, he said, surprising even himself with the conviction in his voice. As he spoke about Emma and her mother, his words transformed from anxiety-ridden hesitations into a fluid narrative. He articulated their struggles with compassion, invoking the shared humanity inherent in their plight. It was then that a semblance of clarity illuminated his vision. His testimony wasn't merely about sobering statistics. It was about bridging empathy with advocacy, transformative dialogue that could compel action. To his astonishment, when he concluded, the room remained silent for a moment before erupting in applause. The validation sparked a new realization within him. While he had entered with fear, he had emerged fortified. The audience was not just receptive, but moved. There was potential for genuine discourse on systemic change. The panelists immediately engaged with him after his speech. One of them, a distinguished advocate known for her work in healthcare reform, pulled him aside, her eyes gleaming with interest. "Your passion is palpable, James. We need more people like you to challenge the status quo. Are you up for it?" Her words hung in the air, and he felt an electricity surge through him. This was the moment he had been waiting for, the intersection of ability and need. As the discussions evolved, James realized that this was more than just his pathway to succeed professionally. It was a mission that connected him to himself, revealing strengths and capacities he had yet to fully understand. His insecurities morphed into a reference point for personal growth. He left the meeting more driven than ever, but as the exhilaration subsided, a troubling thought came crashing in. He had captured attention, yet this new role demanded more than just participation. It required a technique and understanding that he had yet to fully grasp. What additional steps would he need to take to solidify his journey? His engagement had only begun, yet the responsibilities felt heavier as the stakes escalated with each conversation. In an unexpected twist, James opened his email later that evening, only to find a message from Emma's mother that altered his perspective entirely. "Please call me. I have something urgent to discuss." The request was simple, yet it churned a wave of unease in his stomach. What conversation awaited that could add another layer to the tangled web he was starting to navigate? James knew he needed to confront this challenge. His journey toward tangible change, towards becoming an authentic advocate, was just beginning. With a mixture of anxiety and urgency, James sat at his kitchen table, staring at his phone. The light from the screen illuminated the furrowed brow that mirrored the weight of Emma's mother's words. "I have something urgent to discuss." Urgency could mean many things, yet the potential implications sent chills down his spine. What could possibly require his immediate attention? He hesitated, heart racing, contemplating what Emma's mother might want to discuss. Doubts nagged at him. Was he prepared for whatever news awaited him on the other end of the line? Would it shatter the progress he had just begun to cultivate? He took a deep breath and dialed her number. "James," she answered, her voice shaky. "Thank you for calling me back. It's Emma." She's worsening. Each word fell like stones, weighing heavily in his gut. The reality of the situation he had only glimpsed at the meeting was crashing down on him. What does that mean? What is happening? She's in the hospital again, and I fear they may not have the resources to help her like they should, she said, breaking slightly. "I remember what you said today about advocacy and fighting for change. I'm reaching out because I need help. I don't know what to do next." The gravity of her plea sparked a fire within him. Here lay a raw, unmistakable need that transcended statistics, the human element he had fought to amplify during the panel. This wasn't just about ideas anymore. It was about a child facing a reality too many lived through in silence. "I'm here for you," James said, almost instinctively, but then it struck him. Does he really know how to help? The conversations from the panel echoed in his mind. He had spoken of advocacy as a noble pursuit, yet now the challenge was real, personal, and terrifyingly complex. They discussed possible avenues, documents to gather, departments to contact, and advocacy groups to reach out to. The call stretched on as they delved into actionable steps, but James found himself sobering with each passing moment. He was gaining knowledge, yet he felt equipped more with questions than answers. After the call ended, he slumped back into his chair, staring blankly at his laptop screen. The meeting had granted him a feeling of empowerment, but this was different. This was a call to action and responsibility that transcended rhetoric. He was being thrust deeper into the muddy waters of healthcare advocacy, where lives hung in the balance. What did he really know about advocating for an urgent healthcare need? How could he mobilize resources effectively? James recognized he was still a novice, teetering on the edge of feeling like an imposter, while simultaneously stirring with determination. What were his next moves? His phone buzzed with a new email notification. Resources for patient advocacy flooded in. He quickly clicked, scanning the information. Knowledge was power. He had to understand the language of the system, learn how to navigate it for Emma and her family. The urgency of the matter ignited a fire in his belly. The time for transformation was now, but uncertainty lingered close behind. James spent the evening reaching out to contacts, digging through resources to educate himself further. His focus tightened. He began to recognize potential allies and gather information. Yet within every flicker of determination lay a flicker of fear. Could he truly facilitate a change that mattered? As the evening grew darker, he crafted a list of essential questions, contemplating a strategic plan for engagement. Who could he turn to for support? What will his role be in this next chapter? The stakes were higher than he anticipated, and the responsibility felt suffocating. In his drive to become more than just involved, he understood he must confront his fears head-on. The imposter he feared masked an advocate in the making. But the complexities of the growing situation loomed, and although he felt an adventurous spirit rise within him, he could not shake the shadow of doubt. With each passing hour, James grew more resolute that he could make a difference. Yet what awaited him when he ventured deeper? The urgency of Emma's situation forced him along a path where silent doubts battled with a burgeoning resolve. As he prepared for bed, he received another notification, an email that sent shockwaves through his thoughts. "We need to meet about Emma's case. Things are moving quickly." The invitation unraveled the layers of urgency into stark reality. The next steps would demand clarity, conviction, and a preparedness he had yet to cultivate. What awaited him behind that door? An opportunity or an insurmountable challenge? James awoke with a sense of purpose coursing through his veins. Today was unlike any other. The meeting about Emma's case could set in motion a significant change, not only for her, but for countless families navigating the labyrinth of a broken healthcare system. The urgency of the situation had crystallized his ambitions, and he felt ready to step fully into his role as an advocate, leaving behind the doubts that had weighed him down. He arrived at the waiting room, where other families shared hushed conversations filled with anxiety. There was a palpable tension in the air, underscored by the shared experience of need. As he prepared for the meeting, he reflected on how far he had come from the man entirely consumed by corporate accolades. No longer just an observer in his penthouse, he was a participant in the real, vibrant tapestry of human experience. When he entered the conference room brimming with stakeholders and advocates, a surge of determination washed over him. Questions flowed freely, and he gestured broadly as he laid out Emma's situation, shedding light on the systemic gaps that had contributed to her struggles. His voice resonated with authenticity shaped by experience and empathy. Emma's case isn't just a statistic. It's a story that needs amplification. We're on the cusp of addressing these urgent gaps in healthcare, but it requires our commitment to fight for families like hers, he urged. The passion in his voice caught the attention of everyone present, and he could feel the shift in energy, a collective recognition of the power of their combined efforts. As discussions unfolded, he was met with a myriad of responses, questions, and ideas from professionals advocating for systemic reform. Collaborations began sprouting, fueled by the urgent need to offer path-forging solutions. One panelist, a seasoned healthcare consultant, proposed a framework for improving patient advocacy, one that would empower families while demanding accountability from providers. James felt a tide of hope. What started as a personal mission to support one child was evolving into a collaborative endeavor with the potential for broader impact. His heart raced as the logistics of a community awareness campaign began to coalesce, a platform focused on real stories, like Emma's. Here lay the intersection of empathy and action, and he could feel the momentum building. Upon concluding the meeting, the group dispersed with a newfound sense of urgency. The feeling was infectious, and James embraced the goal of launching a digital initiative that granted families a significant voice in the healthcare dialogue. In that moment, he recognized a crucial transformation in himself. He had moved from self-doubt to empowered advocate, embodying the very role he had yearned to fulfill. Over the following weeks, James devoted himself exhaustively to this project. He reached out to tech specialists and community leaders, assembling a team that would spearhead the initiative. With every interaction, he felt validated not just as a storyteller, but as someone wielding agency in this complex ecosystem. Simultaneously, he remained in close connection with Emma's family, supporting them through the ups and downs of her treatment. Each conversation evolved through empathy, understanding, and shared determination. James witnessed Emma's resilience, which mirrored his journey. They were allies in a shared cause, and this bond fortified his resolve. As the digital platform came to life, James felt a robust confidence blooming within him, one rooted in authenticity and engagement. The rescue stories they curated galvanized people, educating multiple communities on advocating for their healthcare rights. Each story also created a ripple effect, encouraging others to speak out, share experiences, and join a mission for change. The day of the platform's launch arrived a moment of culmination not just for Emma, but for every individual who felt unheard. James stood before an audience of families, advocates, and media, feeling the electricity of purpose in the air. He eloquently presented their collective stories, emotions spilling forth as the audience absorbed the significance of their shared narratives. In that moment, he captured not just the pain of struggle, but also the beauty of resilience and solidarity. The applause that followed was deafening and validating. It marked the manifestation of his journey in spirit and action. His heart swelled with pride and humility. He had fought to honor the depth of human experience, emerging as an advocate capable of transcending boundaries. Validation soon followed in the form of inquiries from healthcare stakeholders, eager to participate and support the initiative. James was no longer standing on the outskirts. He had earned his place in the conversation, a testament to his personal evolution. The once timid businessman had transformed into a beacon of hope committed to systemic change. Reflecting on what had transpired, James could hardly believe the breadth of his journey. From a man entrenched in a world of wealth and solitude, he had forged a vivid path illuminated by purpose and community. Engaging people and empowering families across various backgrounds was the fulfillment he had always sought but failed to grasp. As he gazed at the emails flooding in, a bittersweet thought washed over him. The journey was far from over. It had merely evolved into the next chapter of advocacy, one he felt ready to embrace fully. Behind him lay fear, uncertainty, and doubt, all transformed into resolve, credibility, and connection. With clarity, he realized this new role was not merely about Emma or any single family. It was an ongoing movement fueled by the stories of everyone fighting unrecognized battles within the healthcare labyrinth. That understanding ignited a renewed commitment within him to remain devoted, intentional, and steadfast. James smiled, knowing that he was precisely where he was meant to be, and the possibility of genuine change stood brightly on the horizon. The echoes of applause still resonated, invigorating him further. James felt liberation coursing through him. He was an advocate, an ally, a champion for those whose stories needed to be told and futures transformed. Now was the time to act, to engage, and to uplift those around him. For behind every plea for help was a story longing to be heard. And with that, James turned his attention back to the world, resolute and ready. If you found inspiration in James's journey, you need to subscribe now to our channel for more exclusive emotional stories. This is the moment to show your support, so don't wait even one more second to share this message. Please leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more individuals in need of hope and transformation. And comment below with your thoughts and theories about this powerful conclusion. Let us hear your voice. Finally, share this video with at least 5 friends who could use a boost of encouragement or motivation in their own lives. Together, let us build a community of overcoming and support.